From unusual things.
Pull up reviews on any website that contains Claire Holley and her music, or check out her numerous music videos on YouTube, and you'll be an instant fan. Claire Holley grew up playing music in Jackson, Mississippi. Now she's living in LA, where she's making her mark in the music industry. Claire, welcome home.
Thank you.
What brings you home, by the way? You missed the humidity, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Well, you know, we usually come in the summer to visit family. This particular time, we had my husband's parents' 50th anniversary to celebrate, so we surprised them. It went over really well, and now I'm here to just hang out for a little while and just have some low-key time, but also a lot of visiting friends and family.
Recharge the creative batteries.
Yes, I hope so. Yeah.
You know, I lived in San Diego before I moved here, and I mean, San Diego is beautiful. Southern California is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's like you're driving around an episode of Chips. You know, you see all the palm trees and everything else. But something about this place that just makes it seems like that's where you find the stories.
And one thing I notice when I come back is there's not as many billboards.
Yeah.
Coming down I-20 and how, as you said, we talked about earlier, how green everything is, how lush.
Are you going to get to perform while you're here?
I actually am. I didn't schedule anything, and then a house concert kind of fell in my lap, and I said, okay, sure. So it's out. People that host house concerts in Ridgeland asked me to come do that. So
those are fun too, aren't they?
They can be really fun because I feel like some of the songs I write do well in kind of an intimate setting like that. That's not to say I wouldn't like singing in an auditorium as well. That would be fun too. But
I've seen you perform. Of course, we did Thacker Mountain Radio together.
That was a blast.
That was so much fun. It really was.
I just was in a good mood after that.
I said I felt like I was like the really nasty middle of a sandwich, because I mean you were awesome, and then I get up there and read, and I'm like wah wah, you know.
No.
But I mean, I love your records, but you performing live, there's just something really special about that.
You.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Is it? I mean, is that something you enjoy? Do you like getting there and connecting with the audience?
I do. I really, I think at my heart I'm an extrovert. I do have to have some solitude, but to have a connection with an audience and to not know where it's going and then it kind of go in a fun direction, there's nothing like that.
Well, since you're home, we'll talk a little bit about your family. Of course, what's really cool is that your niece has been interning here at MPB. So she actually got to wire you up for your microphone just a second ago.
Kelsey Harmon.
You're like, I changed your diaper, and don't you be messing with me, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
So your sister's still here in town?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kelsey's out at Pepperdine, and so we get to see Kelsey a good bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You've got 2 boys, and one's about to be a teenager.
That's right.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So have they gotten to the point where they say, you know, Mom, you're cool, you're a musician, you've got records out, but you're still going to have to drop me off 100 yards from the school? Have they gotten that point yet?
I don't think we're quite there yet.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I used to, when I played music, it bothered them because either A, they weren't on stage with me and they wanted to be, or B, I was not with them.
Right.
So they had to share me with somebody else. Now it's kind of getting to be, maybe it's a little cool.
Right.
And especially when I show my son a Radiohead song, how to play a Radiohead song.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
Because your boys are musical. That's awesome.
Yeah, Jack is playing the guitar some, and so we like to talk about songs and
to sit down and jam together.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I hope there's more of that. I have this dream of having my house be a place where people can come and play music. We don't have a piano yet, but I think we're going to be getting one soon, where people can just come and play songs and not just play 30 seconds of a song, but play a song, and other people play, join in. I think I keep hearing stories about people who did that growing up, and I really want to.
I know. So, we interviewed Mac McAnally, and that was kind of the way their house was growing up.
Yeah.
His mom was like the music teacher and everything else, but everybody would come over and they'd have just huge jam sessions.
Yeah, I think it's a gift to give that to other people, and so I hope it happens.
So what's that like touring and balancing being a mom and being a wife. And I mean, y'all are, I mean, it's like you've got to be one of the busiest people on the planet.
I don't know about that. Before I had children, I probably toured
Yeah.
more than I do now.
No,
So,
okay. Let me explain. I want you to explain something when you do this toured.
well, I think that's because when people hear you tour, they probably think, oh, you're doing 200 dates and you're gone a lot. For me, you know, a long weekend a month is might be my touring for the year. You know, when you put out a record, a lot of times you go out for 3 months or something. If you're Tom Petty, or 4 months, that just hasn't been my model. That's what hasn't been what I've done. I've had to just kind of pick and choose. So, you know, yeah, it is a balance. And if you're with somebody who can pick up some of the slack when you're gone, and support you with that makes a big difference. My husband is that way, and
So he's a rock star in another kind of way.
in another kind of way, yeah. I mean, to hold down a job and then to come home and hold down another job, and because it is a job to be a primary caregiver. So, and sometimes my sons more and more come with me. You know, maybe Jack will sell CDs, or you know, Nate will come for the sound check, and so instead of being like family's here, music's here, like kind of incorporating the two and letting them be a part of it, I think that can be beneficial.
You better watch it. They'll want to become musicians like you.
That's fine.
That's okay.
That's fine. Whatever I tell them, you know, if you want to be a chef in Paris, I'll come to your restaurant.
And you started out on piano. Your grandmother was a jazz pianist. She was very talented.
Very talented.
And she was going to make you a jazz pianist also.
She was going to have us take piano lessons at any rate.
Right. You and your sister both.
Yes.
Yeah.
She did tell me one time when we were playing some chopsticks together that she made it clear to me that there was something I had musical.
Yeah.
She didn't say, "Oh, you're amazing."
You're a prodigy.
She just said some of the ladies in my Sunday school class can't do this. I don't know why that might brighten my day, but like in any case, she did encourage us, and so I took piano lessons from 3rd grade to 10th grade. But then in 10th grade, I asked my parents can I please stop piano lessons because I'd really like to take voice lessons. So I took from this lady named Rita Sweat.
Yeah.
And she was at Jackson Academy. She was the music teacher for like 75 girls. And I loved it, but I think it was probably a hard job.
Yeah,
to
I
have
could imagine.
75 8th grade girls.
That's like herding cats.
I mean, I can't even imagine. But I loved what she brought out in me as a singer. And so I took private lessons from her later and did some voice recitals. And then it wasn't really until college where I kind of started to merge the singing with the playing guitar. And
right. And
so,
when did the writing come along?
Well, my sophomore year of college, the school poetry magazine was called Codon, and they decided instead of putting out a published, book of poems, they were going to do a CD. And so the editor, Martin Baumgartner, asked me if I had a song that I could submit. I said, I don't have a song. He said, well, would you write one? I said, I'll try. So I literally went back to a journal and just looked at something I'd written when I was in France several years earlier, and ended up writing a song called Window. And there are times I can't bear to listen to it, but I actually am now at a place 25 or 30 years later where I can actually appreciate it and think, it's an earnest song, but it was your first song.
That's where it
Be
started.
nice to yourself. Yeah. So it was in college.
You just touched on something. I think a lot of creative people, and there's probably a lot of people walking around that'll never become creative because they can't get past that first step. They can't get past the fear.
Oh, it's really real. It's very real.
Yeah.
And there's always fear, no matter what age you are.
Yes.
So
You're like, I'll lose my house,
For better, for worse, I haven't been a perfectionist. That can, so it not being perfect has not tripped me up, but other things have for sure.
Right.
But I don't know, you just do it anyway, and you just try, and then you get that out, and then you do the next thing. And
it's been fun watching your career evolve, since the late 90s to where it is now, because, you come out with albums, and then you start scoring films and you start doing, but all this is not like you sat down when, you were 15 years old and said, I'm going to do this by the time I'm 45.
No. I wasn't one of those folks that would go to the library and pick out the books on songwriting or the business of songwriting. And I think I probably could have said it. It
Right.
might have been good if I had done that. I didn't. So I just kind of jumped in. And I look back on that, what I would do in my late teens and 20s about just doing it. And I can't believe it. And I kind of admire it. And I'm also like, what? Why can't I do that now? But that was just kind of my MO. And so I wrote some really bad songs. But then I got to some of the better ones. And, one of the things you said about film scoring, when I was a kid, I would make slideshows for people, like with the carousel and like, and I did one for a wedding one time, and I synced music with the slideshow. But I didn't have a computer; I just had a tape recorder. So I would literally rewind and practice every, getting the slide in the perfect timing to where it would be right on cue. And so people were like, "Oh, can you do that? Can you do that same thing at my wedding?" And so I think that was kind of a little bit of the film scoring, like matching sound to an image.
Yeah.
And that's real fun problem solving for me. I mean, it is problem solving, it's also fun creativity. When you have a scene or a character that you're trying to bring out the emotion of that scene or that character, and so you do that musically without words. Or with words sometimes.
I know for me, like when I'm doing my cartoons, that's me writing it, that's me drawing it. And then when I get a call, hey, would you come illustrate my book? Then I suddenly have to collaborate with somebody. It takes a different part of the brain.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. You enjoy the collaboration part, don't you? What's been the project that you've probably had the most fun working on?
I'd say probably there was a documentary called Looking for Lurch, and it hasn't ever been released, which is a little sad. But it's a filmmaker in Arkansas named Tim Jackson. He was doing a documentary on a Watusi steer. Is that right? It's this big bull of some kind that was living in rural Arkansas. And the woman that was, what do you call somebody that takes care of animals? She just would take in a lot, like 40 animals at her house. She was a wonderful person. And so he was doing a documentary on this woman, and particularly this large steer. And I got to write music for that. It was about an hour and 20-minute feature-length documentary, and so getting to write music for that was probably a highlight.
That is cool. One of the collaborations that I particularly like, and I think it's just because I grew up in the South and have been totally terrified of this vine, but is kudzu.
Yes.
That you worked with our own poet laureate,
Yes.
Beth Ann Fennelly. Talk about that experience.
Well, I met Beth Ann in the late 90s, just after my Sanctuary CD had come out, and she and her husband, Tom Franklin, were so kind to me when I would come play in Oxford. I don't know how I ended up meeting them, but she was just very, very supportive, and we became friends. And then I started reading some of her poems and her book, several of her books, and we decided to do a show together called Music in the Hall in Oxford. And so I said, what if we do a song together, or do kind of like I take one of your poems and put it to music. So I did, and it was from the Kudzu Chronicles. And the only thing I did was I took out one little word, but it's basically the same thing. Like, for I always loved, and then there's a line, affection, but it just didn't sing well. So I couldn't, she was okay with that.
So, and she also can sing. I was watching you two singing together.
I know. I said, yeah, can you take the low part and I'll take the high part? Because it's kind of, I like doing an octave with myself, but I can't do that live. We can do that in the studio, but.
Well, it worked out really well.
Thank you.
That's really a lot of fun. You also scored a ballet.
Oh, yes. That was another fun collaboration. I should have mentioned that.
Yeah.
David Carey.
Yeah.
Artistic director for Ballet, Mississippi. That was a blast. We talked for a year to get that together. So that was February 2016, and we met at Hal & Mal's, and he said, "Have you ever thought about having your songs choreographed?" And I said, well, "Sure. That sounds like a blast."
Yeah.
I mean, we have a little saying people like to say in Los Angeles, "Yes and," not no, but yes and. So I said, "Yes and, let's talk." And so I followed up with him, and we we talked and talked, and finally we got a date. We're like, we're going to do it on February the 6th. And once you get a date, then you have to do it. You know, so I wrote about 4 pieces for the young ladies to dance to. They were really sweet.
And you were seeing it like for the first time as you were performing it. I mean,
Yes. Well, in the rehearsal.
In the rehearsal, yeah.
Right. So when I would go back, and I actually sort of helped do some of the audio editing because I was trying to put it up on my website, and I got to watch it over and over. And so I got to appreciate what they were doing more than when I was there.
Right.
So.
Because you're thinking, okay, you know, you're playing and you're trying to make sure you do a good performance.
Yes.
But then you get to watch it.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. You know, and I think you and I, we were talking a little before, we have a lot of similarities in our growing up and our parents and our moms. Our moms are both very talented women, both painted and so forth. Talk about the influence your mom and dad had, because they were both very well known in this community as well for being very talented too. But obviously they gave you the courage to go seek out. I mean, you weren't afraid to leave Mississippi, were you?
I guess I wasn't. I mean,
you went to the same college your dad went to.
Right. Went to school in the Chicago area, at Wheaton College.
Well, that's a little bit of a brain freeze. That's a little different going to Chicago from Mississippi.
It was, but there was something about Wheaton College that was hospitable in its own way,
Right.
even though it was culturally a little different than Mississippi.
It was a little colder in the winter,
It was
too.
a little colder in the winter. I should have learned to wear hats. I didn't think about that enough. But, you know, I think one of the greatest gifts that they gave both my sister and me was a sort of confidence walking through the world of, like, they weren't always the person like, your hair looks bad, or, you know, why are you wearing that? And you should do this. I mean, they definitely guided us, but there was a lot of encouragement to be creative, and my mom had a lot of instruments around the house. My dad had a lot of records, and I got exposed to really great singers, and not just like classical singers like, you know, Joan Sutherland and Kiri Te Kanawa, but other singers like, you know, Glenn Campbell or
Right. Chet Atkins was one of the greatest
They-
guitar players ever.
my dad for Christmas probably went over to Bebop and said, my daughter likes to play guitar. Do you have any recommendations? And they probably said, how about this? And I really think that's what happened, because I had not heard of that. And that was my Christmas present when I was in 6th grade.
And you gave your dad a gift back by restringing his guitar.
By taking off his, yeah. I didn't get in trouble for that, I don't think. Maybe I did. But I also think one of my mom's greatest gifts, and this is something taken me a while to really acknowledge or articulate, but was her transparency about her struggles
Yes.
with depression.
Yeah.
And that got to be the thing that she was known for. And she, as you say, she was a painter, and she learned how to maybe blend the world of art and healing. And a lot of people would go to her and talk to her about their struggles. And it used to kind of embarrass me, to be honest, how much she was transparent about it. But I now see it.
She was healing herself by helping heal others.
Probably so.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? And I know so many creative people, and I know I've struggled with it at times. I always tell people that creativity is kind of like having incredibly fertile soil in your brain. You can grow great crops, but you can grow big weeds too.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Can I? I'm gonna remember
You can steal that. That's fine. You're good.
Yeah, it is.
But her artwork was beautiful.
Thank you for saying that. It's nice to know that you're somewhat familiar with it.
What's next for you?
Well, I'm kind of listening about what's next, but I'm talking about doing some music for a Shakespeare anniversary thing at MC in the spring. I think that's probably going to happen by the time this airs. It may be, we may have a date, but and then finishing up this film, and then I have some ideas about a next sort of full-length record project, but it may be too early to talk about it.
Okay. Oh, I was hoping we were going to break it right here today.
Right here. Yeah, I think I may. You know how that goes when you talk about something too early.
That's true. Especially in California.
Yeah. Man.
You and Chad got married and moved to North Carolina.
That's right.
That had to be quite of a shock. Because number one, you can't just pick up the phone and say, "Dad, help me." You know.
No. Though his dad did co-sign on our lease.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yay.
We were so like, we never moved places for jobs.
Yeah.
We were without jobs when we would get when we.
Oh,
would
really?
arrive.
You just move places to move places.
That might be different now how we approach, but we had sort of this sense of adventure, like, this feels good. Let's do this. It was kind of an intuitive thing, and I'm not telling the world that like that's
Right.
what you need to do, but for whatever reason, that was how we approached it. We were relatively speaking kind of broke. I mean,
Were you watching Beverly Hillbillies one day and said, California's a place we need to be? So you loaded up the truck.
No.
Okay.
We had some good friends out there.
Okay, well, that helps.
And I went out there for some gigs in 2001, and I think my husband fell in love with it, with California, believe it or not. And I was really pushing to move to Nashville because I thought, well, Nashville's so practical. It's right in the middle of the country, and you have this music, and you can go to Chicago in a few hours, and you can go down to. It just seemed the practical thing, but we never had a piece about it. And so, kind of on a whim and a lark, we like, let's move to California because we'd really enjoyed our visits out there. And I still can't believe it. I mean, it still feels like this experiment.
Yeah.
But it's going on a 14-year experiment.
Right. So something's going right.
So something's going right, and I could tell you all about what's going on with him and how he sort of found his way too. But Los Angeles, like Mississippi, is a place that takes a lot of heat. Mm-hmm. No pun intended for how shallow, or Mississippi's so this and it's so that, and California's so shallow and it's so that. And some of those things are true, but there's also so much else that people probably don't talk about.
Right.
But there is some of that stuff too, like a lot of billboards for movies.
A lot of billboards for movies.
I don't really watch many TV shows, but I know about them because I see when they're coming out.
Exactly.
And which studio is putting them out.
And you have a lot of talented waiters.
A lot of audacious waiters.
I remember going to SeaWorld, and the guy was like a wannabe actor, and he was like one of the best guides in the world. He would sing for us and everything else.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, okay.
That's right. A lot of.
The first time it got me, I was driving on the interstate, and the California Highway Patrol went past. Chips. I was like, it's Ponch and John. This is awesome. It's like another planet.
Well, no, and sometimes you're going to Ventura Boulevard, and you see these streets that you've heard about in songs from Sheryl Crow or Tom Petty or the Eagles, and you see these palm trees, and you're like, that looks like the cover of Hotel California, So it is. It's funny. I'll be listening to records I like, and I'll look and see. I'm still a liner note reader.
Yeah.
I'll be like, this was recorded like 15 minutes from here. So I'm still my mind is still blown at that. But I'm not necessarily proud to be in a city where culture is made and like The Voice and all this stuff. But it's where I am, and I'm gonna, I guess, take advantage of some of the opportunities there.
But it's still fun to come home.
It is. It is. I don't think my accent's changed that much.
I was about to say, and we used to get invited to parties to talk Southern. Do you ever get that?
I haven't been, nobody's told me that, but that probably has happened.
Yeah.
People admitted that to you?
Yeah. They said, you sound like Bill Clinton. Here's some free shrimp.
Hey,
like,
Bill Clinton?
Oh, I'm sorry, Hillary, I lied. You got to be able to do the accent. It's great.
Well.
Yeah.
Okay, I do like to imitate, but I'm not going to try to imitate Hillary.
Oh, come on. It's just us.
No, yeah.
Claire, this has been a pleasure. I remember when we were doing Thacker together, I said, I got to get you on the show.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you were able to get in here.
Thank you so much for having me. Is it really over?
Yeah, believe it or not.
Okay.
I know it. So, well, we'll just go do something really cool, and we'll get you back on.
Okay.
How about that?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Marshall.
The river down below is a nice change from home. The sun sets with a calm I have not known. One narrow highway, 100 feet from my door. Cars pass in the night from time to time. Last year out, the sailing was pretty good. But when the storms return, come visit me. The sound of my feet visit me. Up the stony path, 1 foot at a time, a little peace I am hoping to find. And when the wind blows hard on your strong arms, turn those sails and come visit me. The last you rode, the sailing was pretty good, but when the storms return, come visit me.
Thank you.